guys, I'm back. It's been a while. It's been a long while since I've recorded any videos, and so I wanted to get back to doing that and answering and respecting my following by responding to their questions. So the questions have not stopped coming in, even though I've taken a 2-year hiatus to raise my little one. As a lot of you guys know, I'm a mother of 3. I have 3 boys under the age of 10, and so my time is quite occupied, as you can imagine, and I stay very busy. And so I was trying to figure out when I could respond to the questions and get back to the video blog. And the thing that came to me during the meditation was, why don't you film during your free time? And I always say my free time is in the car, on my way to work and on my way home from work. And so I thought that was brilliant. Of course it's brilliant because it's coming from the divine. So I'm going to use this time wisely. I usually use the time for centering myself and getting myself prepared for my work day, and listening to information that feeds me and that elevates me. And so what I said was, I'll use my morning time or my afternoon time to respond to at least one Ask Janell question, just because I think it's so unfair to you guys. And I really enjoy answering my questions and responding to my audience. I think you guys are amazing, and I think you asked some really good questions, so I want to give you guys a response. So for those of you who are just starting to follow me, I'm Janell Morgan. I'm a licensed psychotherapist. I have not been practicing psychotherapy for a while, actually. I decided to move away from that and move more into spiritual work. And so now do more of intuitive counseling, which incorporates a little bit of psychotherapeutic modality, but I don't want to call it that any longer, because I feel like psychotherapy is a spiritual work. I feel like there has to be some type of spiritual shift in the mind in order for psychotherapy to be effective. And so I teach people to operate more from their intuitive selves. We all have got intuition, and I get a lot of intuitive information when I'm working with clients. And so what Spirit tells me, I relate to my clients, and so that shifts their energy in an amazingly beautiful way. I'm also a Reiki practitioner, and so I'm trained in 2 different modalities of Reiki. I'm trained in Kundalini Reiki at the master level, and also Usui Reiki at the master level. And so I incorporate some of that, but more of my work is the intuitive counseling work. So I have not been taking individual clients for a while, and that's because I've been on maternity leave, and I wanted to take my time to really invest in my son. We had a rocky delivery. It was a rough time for both of us, and we were getting on our feet, and I wanted to take my time to do that and actually allow my body to heal and my mind to heal, because I know that that process was necessary for me and my little one, and I needed to regroup and figure out what it was specifically that I needed to work on and why that experience came into my life. And so I feel ready. I feel like even though there's still some things I'm working on, I'm going to always be working on a few things, but I'm ready to address your questions again. So that was a long intro, right? Just for me to get to this question that I thought was an awesome question. It came anonymously, so I don't have anybody to shout out for this one, but it was a really good question. It was a strong one, and I wanted to answer it today. So the question was, how do you remain calm when everything is chaotic around you? And I think we've all experienced a little bit of that, right? Like, there are these moments where things surrounding us are just up, down, all around, and moving in every different direction possible, but we're supposed to still be able to find some degree of the ability to be centered. And it can be challenging. It can be, especially when the things that are happening around you impact people that are really close to you, or impact your finances, or impact your job situation, things like that. So, you know, we have the ability to be swayed in those moments. My answer to that question is that there has to be a consistent practice that you employ daily or multiple times a day in order to know what it is exactly that you need to do to get still. And for me, that's meditation. For me, it can be reading. It can be listening to some of my favorite inspirational speakers or spiritual advisors. And those could differ for anybody, but for me, I've got my set of people that I go to in order to give me the information that I need to settle me down. Another way that I go about it is prayer. So I do want to talk specifically about these individual things that I listed and why they're important in keeping you still or getting you still. So I'll start with meditation. Meditation for me is a practice that allows me to not talk so much, but more be a listener and an observer. And so during meditation, I don't allow myself to listen to all the thoughts in my head. I send those thoughts away as they come so that my brain can actually get to a point where it's not thinking. And it took me some years to cultivate that ability. I mean, I still, even after years and years of meditative practice, have my moments where it takes a little longer to get still than I would like for it to. But for the most part, I can pretty much sit down in my meditation space and just get still right away. Sometimes my drive home or my drive to work is my meditation, and so I stay focused only on the things that are surrounding me in my car. And that doesn't involve my finances, that doesn't involve my kids, that doesn't involve my job, it doesn't involve any of those things. It keeps my mind off of all those things and focused only on the specific experience that I'm having now. And if we do that more often than not, then we have peace, right? Usually what's happening in the moment that we're present in is not the thing that's wreaking havoc on our lives. It's not the chaos. Usually the moment that we're in right now, this second, is peaceful. And so because we're in this peaceful moment, it's no need for us to feel anything other than peace. And if we live each moment that way, we won't have these experiences of chaos and confusion. So meditation is the key. And when I sit for meditation, I literally, each individual thought that I notice that isn't about the very moment that I'm in, that isn't bringing me peace, then I address it. And I say, I see that you're here. You are important. You're an important thought. But I'm going to table you for now. I don't need to talk to you. I don't need to entertain you. I don't need to try to resolve you. What I'm going to do right now is set you to the side, and I'll come back to you later, because you do have to be resolved and you do have to be addressed, and you are important in my life. And that gives the thought, which does have its own energy, it gives the thought the ability to feel pacified for a moment, and it drifts. It goes away for that moment. I don't let it come back. It doesn't have that right, because that's my time to use my brain how I want to use my brain, and I'm in control of it, right? So I stop it. And that's how I address every single thought that comes up. Even if it's something that's like super duper stressful, I still am able to still it by giving it attention, acknowledging it, validating it, and then putting it on the table for me to come back to later. I used to use the analogy of a conveyor belt. Like, as these thoughts come up in my head as I'm meditating, I'll sit them on the conveyor belt and I'll like watch the thought just kind of drift away, and I'll keep putting them on there as the thoughts arise. But I table them, because the conveyor belt keeps coming back around, right? I don't want it to come back. I want it to be tabled. And so I put it off to the side and I allow it to be tabled until I'm ready to address it again. And so sometimes after my meditation, I try to recall those thoughts and I'll write them down. Usually they're recurring thoughts anyhow, and so I know what they are, and I do address them in a timely fashion. But yeah, they're my thoughts. I know where they're coming from, and I can address them, and I do that, but not during that specific time. Also, prayer. Prayer is hugely important. Prayer is the thing that gets me through, right? The tricky thing about prayer is that it's still me talking, and it's still me thinking about my thoughts, because I'm asking the universe, in whichever way I choose to ask the universe, right? And it's different for everybody. I'm asking a higher power to help me to resolve the issues that are arising in my life. So to a degree, prayer, unless you completely surrender, prayer is still you thinking about your stuff. And so unless you are focused on the solution, prayer can just be a cyclical recurrence of negative feelings if you don't allow yourself to release it and actually hand it over to whatever this divine power that you're praying to is. But prayer is a very important part of my spiritual practice, and it's what really does bring me some stillness. So in my prayer practice, I can just give you the advice that I give to clients, and what I do myself is I have an altar set up in my home that I have available for me to acknowledge my ancestors and for me to acknowledge those higher powers that I believe helped me in my life, whether they be spirit guides or other higher beings that I know assist me, archangels and all of that. I go to my altar where they're all acknowledged and represented, and I literally put myself in full supplication, and I pray that my issues are resolved, and I literally give over those things to those higher beings, and I allow them to handle that. And I promise you, every single one of the prayers has been answered in very timely fashion. Now, it doesn't always happen the way that I might have imagined that it could happen or would happen, but it definitely happens, and it's so relieving, and it's like, it's so peaceful, and it's such a beautiful experience that when I see that I've actually surrendered something and I've let it go and I've blown it away and I've given it to that altar and I've given it to those beings that want to help me and that love me so much, that it's amazing how it just is nullified, that it's like literally obliterated from my life. And I'm just so grateful for having that as a process, as a practice to go to. And then I said also going to my my inspirations, those individuals that are spiritual advisors for me or that are inspirational to me. I can list a few of them for you guys, but I listen to their speeches. I will read their work. I'll completely enmesh myself when I need to in the work of people that I think are enlightened, and I'll list a few of them, and I'll also put them down in the description box so that people can reference them. But Wayne Dyer, I think, is an amazing influence. He's had such a positive influence on my life. When I first started my spiritual journey, he was one of the teachers that came to me, and I studied many of his books. James Allen is another one. I love reading his texts. It's helpful for me to read his work slowly because it's written in English that's a little bit different from the way that we speak English, and so in order for me to ingest it fully and really process it, I do have to read it more slowly. And so sometimes I'll read the same chapter multiple times before I move on to the next. But the book that I love the most by James Allen is As a Man Thinketh, and they did a modification of it, As a Woman Thinketh, but As a Man Thinketh is amazeballs to me. And so I've read that book numerous times. I've referred to specific parts of it. I've got dog-eared pages. I got little sticky notes on specific pages. But it helps me to understand like how my thoughts are creating the chaos, and how the things that are happening around me have only to do with the thoughts that are happening in my head. And so once you gain that understanding and that insight, you're good. You recognize how much control you have over your experience. You're the only one controlling your experience. And so when you understand that, and that you've got that autonomy, life is so different, because you're able to take back and own the direction of your life. So definitely Wayne Dyer, James Allen, Janell Grills, amazing spiritual advisor. He's like, I can't even describe him. You would have to look him up on your own. But that man is brilliant, and his experiences are amazing, and the things that other people's experiences that work with him are amazing. And I've had my own testimonies that I've sent to him and shared with him that have been life-changing and life-altering for me. So I love him. so many different people that I go to. I love the work of Louise Hay and Doreen Virtue. Anything that I think will settle me and give me the information that I need. Also, I love Abraham Hicks. Esther Hicks is just incredible, and I love her dearly. But I mean, you got to find the people that work for you, the understanding that you need, where you are in your spiritual journey, like speaking, having people that can speak to you where you need to be spoken to. Sometimes I look at my own work and I'm inspired by that, and that's amazing to me that I actually say something that's inspirational to myself. So you know, I think everything that we have and everything that we need is already existing in us. And so it's important for us to recognize that all your answers are already there. All the chaos is already resolved. It's just a matter of you putting the practices into place in order for you to have the experience of the peace consistently. And I think once you get that, and once you know that you've got your practices in place and you know exactly what to go to yield the desired result, the chaos is nothing. Problems are going to always arise, but you've got to understand that you've got the practice, you've got the solution. It's always there and it's always in you. And the moment you decide to access it, it's done. You're good. So I hope that answered your question. I hope that it was helpful to you and anyone else that had a similar question or has a similar wondering. And I pray, as always, that all of you are lifted in light and all of you sparkle and shine as brightly as possible. And I love you all dearly. Twinkle and beam, guys. Peace.